for this. But before we begin, before we jump right into it, I'll hand it over to David, to welcome everyone to our regional A Talk.
Thank you so much, Gaurav. I presume you can hear me? You can hear me? Thank you. Look, I just want to say welcome to everybody. We've got sort of three segments of an audience here. One is live in the room. Another is the people who will get the recordings of the event. And then for the first time, we're going live on Facebook, which is just amazing. So this is being developing every event that we have. I just want to welcome a few particular folks that we've got in the room. We've got two other members of our team, at least at this point. Vincent from Malaysia, welcome Vincent. We've got April from Philippines, who's also part of the Asia Pacific team. We've also got Surav Lahiri, who is one of the newly elected members of the AAIEB. Welcome. We've also got Aisuru, who has been our contact for Asia within the region as well. He's here too. And I just want to say thank you so much to this amazing team that have put this together so that we don't leave this to the end. But Gaurav, Stefan, and Annalise. And for the rest of you, just realize we've been constructing this extraordinary team, and these three are wonderful members of it, and it's all kudos to them for having organized this and the other things that we're doing too. Just to conclude, it's really a pleasure to have Jaycee here. I originally met Jaycee, albeit briefly, back in Shanghai in 2017. And I find this very symbolic because this is a wonderful example of the bridges that we're building between the countries within the region and around the world, because Jaycee is now the first person here to represent MOC, which is also a newly onboarded member of the restructured global enterprise. So that's really thrilling to have you here, Jaycee, and thank you so much. And that's really all I've got to say. Thank you so much again. Oh, one last thing. I just want everyone to remember something here. We are a band of brothers and sisters. The fact is, many of us have been going through stressful times through COVID, and I find it extraordinary to think that in these times, more than any other time, the Alumni Association, for example, is now growing and opening new doors and providing new opportunities and offering new levels of value. So I just find it an extremely exciting time. So thank you so much. Back to you, Gaurav.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David, for that welcome message. Just wanted to go through some expectations with everyone. Of course, be as engaged as you can and participate enthusiastically, whenever the chance is to participate. If you do have some questions in the middle of the presentation, please feel free to put them in the chat box, and we'll try and put them or ask Jaycee those questions whenever appropriate. We highly encourage you to keep your camera on because that just increases engagement for everyone. And of course, mute yourself throughout the conversation or throughout the presentation unless you have to speak, and then you can unmute yourself. So those are some basic expectations, which I'm pretty sure everyone probably already knows, having gone through many Zoom calls throughout everyone's lockdown periods. This is what the agenda is for today. I'll give a quick introduction about Jaycee. We'll go through the presentation, which is titled AIESEC is a mini MNC. We'll have a Q&A at the end, depending on the time. We'll have a 5 to 10 minute Q&A. And after the presentation, after everything is over, we might hang around for a little bit, of course, depending on everyone's availability. So it'll be a little bit of like an informal space where you can come, chat, hang out, ask questions, whatever that may be. Awesome. So just a little bit about Jaycee before I let him jump right into it. I shared the story with Jaycee when we had a call sometime earlier as well, that I've been following him since my time in AIESEC US. So I was part of AIESEC US. I was in LCP, one of the LCs over there. And yeah, finally we've gotten in touch with him. So this is like a little bit personal for me in the sense that, finally we've been able to meet and we've been able to get him on board. I think his career has been really cool. Of course, after AIESEC, entrepreneurship and being a global citizen becomes a part of anyone's life, and so that's definitely been Jaycee's too. Just a little bit about him. Of course, his working experience, it's it's all about innovation and creating new value to concepts and communities, especially after his great job of launching Uber in China, the current company he's working at right now as well, and then bringing China to a global platform too, like he did when he was director at Alibaba. His AIESEC experience, of course, has played a very, very critical role throughout his journey, as it has in so many people's life, definitely my life as well. It's played a critical journey in his life because it really taught him how to become a manager and a leader who is culturally sensitive, people caring, and challenge accepting. So that's a little bit about Jaycee. That's a little personal story about my experience with Jaycee as well. I'm very, very excited about this presentation. So without further ado, Jaycee, I'll let you take it forward.
Thanks, Gaurav. And thanks for the invitation, David. Thanks for everything set up here, Stephen. It's been like so many years since the last time I interacted with AIESEC. Actually, my last time interactive with AIESEC probably is like 3-4 years ago, where I was in the alumni conference in China. And I'm really happy getting back to AIESEC again here to share my experience and how AIESEC is actually changing me to a person who I am today. If you don't mind, please move to the next slide. Thank you. So this is like really brief about my AIESEC experience. I actually joined AIESEC pretty early in 2009, 2010 as like a member for an LLC called SYSU in China. Back then our LLC was in a really struggle situation about like, it's kind of really similar to most of like the deal starting LLCs in China. We only have like 4 or 5 people in the team. And then we've got like a kind of like challenging situation with our school. And then that's how we kind of start building our LLC. But our LLC has been like growing really good, like from 5 people to 10 people. And by the end, when I left the LLC, we grew to like more than 100 people in our LLC. That was like a really great journey for the whole year when I was like acting as an LCP there. That taught me about how to truly believe in humankind's potential. And I think this is like the value that I keep like learning and keeping in my mind, even though I kind of working right now. And then like team and people are the most important assets for me and for the team. And then like, what I kind of really learn about is like building like a system and also like a culture that could like last forever. So this helped like the LC to keep like running like for 4 or 5 years and became like the #1 LC in China when I kind of left like AIESEC. And then my second experience was about my leadership in Indonesia. To most of people, if you don't know about leadership, it's some kind of like exchange, but the only difference is more like exchange about helping other AIESEC entities to grow their business in their countries. So I actually like got an opportunity about my leadership in Indonesia, which I'm gonna like share later about how this experience is changing my whole life and how I actually understand it myself. And then after like the leadership, I kind of like tried to apply and join the MC in China. And then I was like responsible for South China. Back then, AIESEC in China was like really developing in Middle East and North China, but South China was like a new developing area. And then that's why I kind of like try to share my experience and kind of expanding our power and our influence to most of like South China cities, including like Macau. And after that, I was trying to challenge myself a little bit because like my whole AIESEC experience was mainly focusing on the Chinese culture context. And that's why I applied for facilitators in Russia to try to facilitate one of like the biggest like conference. And after my experience in China, I was like kind of struggling a little bit whether I should move on to kind of take a job in China or kind of take the opportunity to try to challenge myself again in different culture contexts in US. But I was really glad that I joined the MC in US, which is like I'm able to kind of learn about if I'm able to leverage my experience from China to US, and then if I'm able to kind of work into like a culture context with people from different countries. So like we got around like 9 to 10 people in our team from different countries, from like 6-7 different countries. So I think the whole experience was like really challenging because like we kind of have a different cultural background, but the whole experience was really rewarding because like by the end of the year, by the end of like the term, we are able to achieve one of like the best ICX results in the US history. So I was like really rewarded and glad that I joined like, the US team. So my whole ICX experience given me a lot. And then throughout the whole ICX experience, I got like 1,000 times and 1,000 reasons why I should quit ICX. but I didn't. I mean, like, this is kind of like the struggle for most of AIESEC as well. But I mean, like, the reasons why I didn't quit AIESEC, it was because of my leadership experience. Please go to the next slide, please. So this was my first leadership experience in AIESEC. So before I kind of share more about my experience, I would like to ask the plenary here, like, if you're able to spend like 30 seconds to think about what is like the most life-changing experience in AIESEC that gave you, feel free to just share in the chat or just unmute yourself to share. It would be like really helpful. Volunteer experience in Russia. Nice. Vietnam or LC experience. Cool. Everyone up to be LCP. Indonesia. Nice. So here comes my experience in Indonesia. So I kind of spent 1 month whole citizenship in Indonesia. My citizenship was covering 5 different cities from Sumatra to Java Islands. So I have to like travel all the way from north to south Indonesia. And then Padang as like a first city I visited. That's how I kind of started my citizenship. So my life in Padang was pretty tough, and it's like even tougher than before I kind of expected when I first like visited like the city. So when I really want to take a hot shower in China, it's easy, right? Just like go to the bathroom and then use like the bathroom. And then when I really want to call my family, I just use my phone and just make a call. But my whole life in Padang was a little bit different. So when I really need to take a shower, I had to pass an open glass door to a public bathroom. And then when I went to the bathroom, I had to use like the scoop and also like cold water from the tank to wash my body. And then the water was coming and filtered from like the river water. And then you can actually see some insects and some kind of like worms like swimming in the water. So this is something like new and strange to me. And also like back then, like smartphone was then like really popular. And then the reception like in Padang wasn't really good when I was living in one of like the LC members' house. And then like whenever we want to make like international calls, the LC member would suggest me to climb a tree. So that was like how I kind of started learning how to do like a tree climbing, like when I was like doing my citizenship over there. And then like one thing which is like really interesting to me is about the ANCOT. So like to those people who probably don't know about ANCOT, ANCOT is like a public transportation vehicle in Padang. And ANCOT is like really similar to like a bus. You just go to different like routes and also the different like circle. It just keep going into circles. And then as you can see in the picture, they're all in different colors. But like something is like really interesting here. Like if you're going to like ANCOT with white color, or probably a white color with flower on it, or even like a white color with like a blue stripe on it, they're all going to different like routes. So if you go into like a wrong color ANCOT, you probably go to somewhere else that you actually don't know. So that happened to me. So one day I was like trying to go to like the LC to sit down with the LC team member to just go through like the business. And then I went to like an ANCOT. But like something I didn't realize, I went into like the different like color ANCOT with like different like patterns on it. So like I was sitting there, I was looking out of the window, and I realized that, oh shit, I wasn't going to the right direction. And then I wasn't even know where I was like going. I was trying to make a call to the LC member to explain where I was, but it's like really difficult because I was going to somewhere like in the rural area. And then I just like choose to give up. I was like sitting in the back seat of like the ANCOT between 2 Muslim ladies, and then I start like sobbing. And I all like the challenge in Indonesia like that came to my head. I was asking myself like, why am I here? What is like the main purpose about like coming to like this like citizenship? And then when I look out of like the window, I saw like a beach, and then I just like stop the bus, start the ANCOT, and I got off. And then I start like sitting on the beach and start like doing a lot of like reflections. Next slide, please. So I actually learned about the comfort zone kind of like a theory like before for an AIESEC like training. And then like that was like the first time I really like using like the comfort zone model. And I knew I was in the fear zone like right then. That kind of like that's why all like the challenge came to my mind. And then that's why I kind of thinking about, okay, why am I here? What are the challenges and how am I able to kind of like find an excuse to actually try to like escape from the challenge? But also I realized that actually if I'm able to get through like the fear zone, that goes to my learning zone and also my growth zone. And then the learning zone itself is about how I'm going to like overcome all the challenges here. And the growth zone is about why I'm in this kind of city and then why I'm kind of doing the leadership. So I sit down, I try to reflect and I try to like ask myself like questions. And then in the end of the day, the kind of three questions that came to my mind. And this three question is actually helping myself to keep reflecting myself throughout my whole life and all my like career. So the first question was, if you had all the money in the world, what would you spend your time doing? So this question is about like the motivation. Like if you have all the money, you don't have any limitation. What is like the most strong motivation of your life? So the second question came to my mind was like, what truly makes you happy or gives you a deep sense of like fulfillment? So this is something that transfer your motivation to your passion. So this is more like the things that you would really want to like spend your time and then you're excited about. And then the last but not least question that I gave to myself was about what would you do today if tomorrow was the last day of your life? So this helps you to kind of think about like what would be like the urgency and the priority of all the choices that you kind of think about. So I kind of pause like another like 1 minute here, and then it would be great if you can also share like any of like the answers of these questions. It's tough, huh?
Pretty deep questions.
Really deep questions.
Yeah.
So I would share mine here. Next slide, please. The one next. So this is like my answers to myself. So I was like really passionate about like doing an NGO. And then I also realized there's like so many different challenges like for an NGO or like an NPO that we can't describe. But I feel like this is like really fascinating because I feel like that for myself, what really makes me happy is to making people happy or helping people to actually fulfill what they really want to do. And this is what my passion about is like try to help or serve those people who can help and serve other people. But by doing that, like there's no way for myself as my own self is able to do that. And then that's why like my biggest motivation, if this is my last job of my life, I would really want to start like a self-sustained NPO or even like social enterprise, which is able to like make positive like impact. So this is why I kind of feel that I motivate. And then that's why as like a priority right now, when I was like sitting on the beach, I realized there's like a huge gap between what I was to what I really want to do. And then that's why like I should like continue my leadership. I should just like be like a student to learn. And then like, I should to be like accept what all the challenges are. And then I continue my leadership. So this is like what I kind of really like doing like a whole day reflection over there. And then after I really got like all the answers, I pick up my phone and just like call the LC member to help me. And then I told him that I would continue my leadership. And then I successfully like fulfilled a whole month's like leadership in Indonesia. Throughout the whole journey, I got all the challenges, but I really able to like get through it. But to all these like three questions that I actually got like some notes here. Number one is these are kind of really three different difficult like questions. And then like it's okay that you don't have like a perfect answer right now. And then it's also okay that like those like answer to the question has been like changing all the time. Because like as you kind of expanding your knowledge, you will realize that most of the answers are actually not right, or most of the answers are actually not appropriate. And then that's why you're able to keep changing it. But like for every moment that you kind of start thinking about challenges, for every moment that you start thinking about like being kind of challenged, yeah, and then you should always like ask these like questions to yourself. So this question like really guides me kind of as my North Star from my whole AIESEC journey. Next slide, please. So from my whole AIESEC journey, they kind of do some keywords there. It's all about like global network, global understanding, global sensitivity, different kind of opportunity, etc., etc. But like what AIESEC really taught me about is like, because AIESEC is like a global platform, that it also empower me with global mindset and sensitivity of like different cultures. So this like kind of plays a really important role for my next journey. And then also AIESEC gave me LoveIn, but they were full of resources and knowledge on this platform that I can actually learn anything actively from AIESEC. So this is something that we keep talking a lot, like when we were in AIESEC. Last but not least, AIESEC is like really empowering platform. No one really told me about right or wrong. All I had to do is to learn, to test, to fail, and to try it again. So this is what AIESEC really taught me about. And then like to make it like more clear, next slide, please. This is like the model that I kind of learned from my AIESEC. So like starting from like something like really straightforward is like the hard skill, which is like how we actually managing the people, how we doing like the supply and demand, how we actually doing the public presentation, something like that. And then the soft skill is more like how we're able to do the communication, doing the coaching and mentoring. I realized that coaching and mentoring are kind of really important skill when we're actually in the career. Last but not least is like kind of being sensitive to different cultures. And then two things I actually learned from culture is about the mindset and value. Those two things I cannot be learned from like a textbook. Those two things can be learned throughout the experience. For example, like are we a solution-driven person, or we just like kind of like complaining, right? Are we trying to find excuses when it comes to like challenges, or we are trying to find like the solutions? And then last but not least is like the value. Value is the most important thing. It's kind of like why you are doing what you are doing. So value itself is kind of like AIESEC taught me to do the right thing and also like focusing on the mission. So these are the things that AIESEC like really taught me about. And these things are really helpful in my next journey of my career. Next slide, please. And then actually like before I left AIESEC, I was really comfortable staying with AIESEC. And I was even thinking about applying for AI or other global AIESEC MC roles. However, the comfort zone model came to my mind again. And I talked to my most admirable mentor, Florent, who was like serving as like an AI member back then. And I chose to move on. So my first job was starting my e-commerce company. The first 1 to 2 years was pretty smooth because there were like no fun and inspiring place like AIESEC in the real business world to me. And then that's why like I kind of started the M Home, which is like the company I started with my partners, as like an e-commerce company. So this company was going really, really fast because like e-commerce was like a newly emerging market and newly introduced to the China market. And then like the e-commerce really changed the way how people are doing shopping. And then like after almost like 1.5 years, 2 years, like serving this like company, starting my own company, an opportunity referred from another AIESEC alumnus came to me, which was Uber. And then I wasn't a truly believer in Uber when I started like my job, when I was like launching Uber in China back then. But the whole fast growing trajectory really fascinated me about Uber because that the company was like growing really, really fast. I wanted to know how this company is kind of doing all those growth, regardless if like it succeed or like fail in China. So I applied for the marketing manager role for Uber in China. But I mean, after they review my resume, they realized that I should apply for the launcher role in China. And then that's how I kind of like went through all the interviews and become the first 10 employees like in China for Uber to launch in the business, which I'm going to expand a little bit later about what I was doing. And then after 2 years, like launching Uber in China, the whole business got merged with Didi, which is like really similar to Uber ride sharing business in China. And then I got an opportunity to move on to Uber Eats or took the offer from other BAT companies like Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent like in China. And then I actually moved to Uber Eats because my AIESEC instinct told me that I should probably try to test my experience from a global perspective again, learning from Uber. And then after 2 years serving Uber Eats, I kind of joined Alibaba. I kind of started feeling comfortable again in Uber. That's why I kind of chose to move on. And then like globalization was like a hit topic back then for China giant company. And then that's why I got like the opportunity to join Alibaba to help them to expand the business to global countries. And then after a year in Alibaba, I got kind of like struggle again because I will share my experience later. But because I was feeling that I was only a part of like a giant machine, I wasn't able to create like the direct impact to the world. And then that's why I moved to my new job right now, which is like a steel mold company. That's why I wasn't able to share more about that, but it will already become one of like the biggest unicorn tech company in the world. So this is my career experience. And then I will share from my M Home stuff. Next slide, please. So this was like my staff experience. So it wasn't like really kind of like comprehensive model, because like M Home itself is like a platform. So we would like to call M Home as like an incubator or like infrastructure for the e-commerce business. What we were trying to do is to try to connect people from different areas. We connect like the product team, which is like a team to try to discover those innovative products from those like innovative talents. Something that like back then, like for some young talents, they actually graduated from the international school. When they came back to China, they have like a really great idea about design. And also for some like talented like product manager, industrial product manager, they actually build like some models, but they wasn't able to like doing like a scalable manufacturing about their product because they didn't know too much about the customers, and they don't have like the manufacturing capacity to do that. And then that's why for M Home, for ourselves, we're actually really good at doing like online marketing through the Tmall or others like e-commerce platforms. And we did like build our supply chain system as well as the logistics systems with like the infrastructure in China, like Cailiao, which is like an Alibaba backup company, is doing like logistics. So we actually are trying to like put all the resources together to build a platform. So by doing that, we're able to help those like young talents, those young industrial designers and product managers to manufacture their product in a scalable way. Because we have like the feedback from the market, like in a really direct way, we are able to share all the feedback to those like designers. And in that way, they're able to keep improving their product. Once we find out like the product which is able to grow in a scalable way, we kind of doing a brand for those like products. By doing that, we kind of creating a different brand for the young talents. In the past, which they were not able to do that because they don't have like too much experience on the e-commerce platform, and they couldn't use like all the logic system. But right now, with us doing that, we're able to build like the dream for like the talents. So this is like the model for the M Home. And then like by the time I left the company, we're actually doing like tens of like millions US dollar like revenue like per year. And then right now for the whole company, kind of expanding like globally. They even like acquire some like brands like globally from like Southeast Asian countries and Israel. So I was really proud of like what we have done and started like the business model like back then. And then what we want to share is the next slide, the AIESEC, the Uber experience. So I mean, like for most of people that they don't know too much about like the Uber, how Uber is like hiring people. So this is like the process here. And then Uber is actually following like the hiring process really similar to Amazon. So it's kind of like started like from like a data analysis like exercise, and then it goes to like a written exercise. And then I got like 5 rounds of interview. Generally it was only like 3 rounds, but I got into like 5 rounds of interview from different like level of people from different like part of the world. And last but not least, I got like a presentation. So this is like kind of like really kind of like standard way for how most of the fast growing internet company hire people. So what they're trying to do is like throughout the whole data analysis, they want to test if you are really good at like data processing. So when talking about data processing, it's not only about how to use Excel, but you're able to build like a really simple data warehouse to processing the data, and then use the data to come up with like the insights and the answers, which is able to guide the business. So this is data analysis. So they gave me all the raw data from Uber trips. It's like thousands of lines that I can like able to that I have to like find out like the answers from all those like data. And then after I passed the data analysis, it went to the written exercise. So it's not only about how you are able to write in English, but also how you're able to write things in a framework and like a logical way. For example, one of the questions is like, how are you able to test how much you spend on the marketing budget, and then like how you're able to test if the budget makes sense and what is like the ROI. So it seems like a really simple question, but you have to like break down the question into different like parts, and then you start answering like the question like step by step in the logical way. And then you have to do a lot of research online as well to understand what is the conversion rate of like marketing budget online, for example. So this is like how they kind of testing you if you're able to do things in a structured and logical way. And then for the 5 rounds of the interview, that was really tough for me. Because like for most of the people that Uber hired back then, they were all from like consulting world or like from like iBanking. And then most of the question is kind of like weird to me. For example, like how many cars do you think we need to launch a city? So this is how they kind of asking me, or like how are you going to do like the pricing model, like for Shanghai or Beijing, for example? What would you like kind of refer to when you're kind of doing that? So I have to answer the question in like a really short period of time, and then give them the answer how I actually think about that. Of course, they also like try to test me if I really know about the China market, and they ask me to share more about how Chinese people are thinking about the market. It's also a way of them learning about like how China market looks like. And then the last part was like the most struggling part for me. It was kind of like, because I was like applying for a role as like a launcher. So I have to like share them like the market entry strategy to Beijing. So this is like something like totally starting from the scratch and like from a white paper. So I have to like starting everything from like how I understanding about the market of Beijing, how I understand about like the taxi market in Beijing, etc., etc. So I kind of start building the model. And then what Uber, they care a lot is about the P&L. So they actually grill me a lot on like reading all the P&L numbers to see if I really understand about the business in the number way and also in the reality. Next slide, please. But I have to say that for most of like the interviews, I actually doing not that good. For the green arrow, those are the areas that I thought I was doing pretty good. One is like because I got a referral from AIESEC. So, and also this AIESEC was kind of like the early member of like Uber in China. So she got me like really good, like good reference. But the second part I thought I was doing pretty good was the written exercise. Cause like from the feedback, I actually wrote the longest and the most comprehensive written exercise like back to them. So they actually feel like really surprised that I actually like got like around like 30 pages of like the written exercise. But I mean, for the data analysis, for the interviews, and also for the presentation, I wasn't doing that good. And actually for most of the question, I wasn't answering in like a proper way or like the answer that I thought they would like kind of accept. But what really makes me like kind of really stand out here in the whole process of the interview from the feedback, it was because I kind of like really passionate about the job. I would try to like reach out to all those interviewers whenever I got the chance. I try to ask for all the feedback, how I was able to improve. Even after the written exercise was like submitted, I also trying to add more like kind of contents, like the appendix, some of my new thoughts and ideas, and then keep sharing to the interviewers. So they kind of feel that I actually really passionate about like the job. And then that's how I kind of got like the offer. Next slide, please. And then like I was thinking about that Uber as kind of like a fast growing company would probably have like a really good onboarding process. And then they probably have like a really good structure about how they actually like building people's capacity. But the first day I joined the company, it was totally different from what I kind of expected. So my manager asked me to kind of try to pack everything in one suitcase. And the suitcase has to be like no check-in suitcase. So I can actually travel a lot. And then she gave me like a corporate credit card. And then the credit card was like a lifesaver because I got to buy tons of like iPhone. And then I got 1 hour onboarding session, which she gave me like a laptop and then gave me a few like the websites. So I was able to log in and use the system. And then she asked me to buy a one-way ticket to Beijing. And that's how I kind of started my first day as like a Uber launcher. So I didn't got like too much like information about the company, what the company was like doing. And then I started my first day. And then my first day in Beijing was easy and tough. The first day was like try to get 500 iPhones in one day. And then that was my first job. So I went to like all the Apple store in Beijing, tried to use the credit card to get all the iPhones. But it seems that even like we kind of bought out all the iPhones in Beijing, I wasn't able to hit that 500 number. So I was kind of trying to reach out to my friends from like different cities to ask them to buy iPhones to me and then ship them all back to Beijing. So that I was able to have like 500 iPhones to do my first day job. And then buying iPhone was not the end of my first day job, but installing the iPhone was the most difficult part for me. So we kind of started using the iPhone and connected with our laptop to install the install the Uber driver app. And then that was like too slow because like one laptop has only like 2 to 3 USB like connections. And then that's why we kind of try to like try to Google to see if they're able to have like expanders that we are able to connect to like multiple iPhones. That's how you kind of saw the picture on the left bottom. That's how we kind of doing all the iPhone installations like in one day. Why we were doing that is because that we were going really fast. We kind of like try to onboard as many drivers as possible, so we were able to like cover the city. So that's how I kind of started my first day. Next slide, please. So this is how I kind of like expected, which is like the bottom line over there, and then like the J curve was like how I was really how the actual was really looks like. And then every day when I woke up, I always got asked about different questions, like how to buy more iPhones, how to kind of scale from like 100 iPhones to 1,000 iPhones per week, so that we are able to onboard in as many drivers as possible. And then we started from like inviting all the drivers to our office, to our meeting room, to try to teach them how to do like how to use the iPhone, how to use like the Uber app. And then like it wasn't like scalable enough. And then that's why we were thinking about how are we able to like onboarding only 50 drivers in one office to onboarding like 5,000 in a week. And then we start like try to rent some conference room. And then we were kind of try to use like the online teaching platforms in China to teach more like drivers. So these are all the questions that I keep being asked and also like keep asking myself. And then throughout the whole launching experience, it was crazy for me. Even it's like only like 3 months of launching experience in Beijing, it feels to me like 3 years because I grew a lot like in this like 3 months experience. And then something I actually learned from the whole experience were kind of things I kind of stated below. It's like there was no answer for the real business world. And then most of the cases that we learned from the MBA book, they were kind of not really applying to the real reality. So this is something that I really learned. But really helps us to actually learn about the real business is just like to get your hands dirty, to try to do things like from zero and to try to fail. And after you fail, like just don't get knocked down, just like step out again and then you try it again. And then like every day when you wake up, ask yourself, how are you able to do better like today than like yesterday? So this is something that I actually learned a lot. And then I found the similarity between Uber and AIESEC here is these two companies, they only provide me a platform. And then like, they're not teaching me anything from this platform. But because the platform itself is like so powerful and the platform itself is so resourceful that we are able to actually learn everything from this platform as long as you are active enough. So this is like how I kind of started my Uber journey like in Uber and what I really learned here. And then I found the similarity between Uber and AIESEC. Next slide, please. And then like later on after the merge with Didi in China, I got the opportunity to choose to go global to launch Uber Eats business. And then Uber Eats business is kind of like a food delivery business. And it's like really different from Uber because Uber is kind of connecting only the drivers and the riders. But for Uber Eats business, we also need to connect with like the restaurant, the courier, and also like the consumer. And then like it kind of making the model way much like difficult. And then like for Uber business, it's like pretty easy because what we need to do is to just sign up the riders and sign up the drivers. But for the Uber is we need to start focusing on doing sales to the restaurants. And for most of the mom and pop shop, they're so used to the way of doing offline business. And then they kind of like, they don't know why they have to go online and then we have to charge them commission by providing like the leads to them. And then like for the first like few months of like launching the business, like we got a lot of rejection from the restaurants and the sales was really tough for us. But I mean, like for these two businesses, like after like 2 years of like running Uber Eats and launching and running Uber Eats in North Asia, I actually like echo back a lot to my AIESEC experience. Cause like when I was running the Uber Eats business, I was running a business in Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, Korea, and like some Japan. And then like those countries, countries and districts, they're all different from each other. And then my AIESEC experience like play a really important role to me because I was able to be like really cultural sensitive. I sit down with the team, I try to understand how they work. I kind of try to do like more research about the market, how consumer understanding about like the food delivery market, what are their challenges, and then we kind of start building like strategy according to that. So that it kind of helped me a lot about because of the culture sensitiveness. And also like being a global leader, that means a lot about like empowerment, because like, there's no way for me understanding about the details about how to run a business in different countries and districts. And then that's why also like the AIESEC experience actually teach me a lot about how to empower a team and build a team. So building a positive team could actually like help me to resolve a lot of like difficult like challenges in different like countries and districts. But the last but not least is about the entrepreneurship mindset, because like both Uber and Uber Eats experience were starting from zero. Like we did not even have like a product at the very beginning. So we gotta use a lot of like human touch and also like getting our hands dirty to fix like things that the product is not able to support. So the entrepreneurship like taught me a lot about just to go into the market and start doing things. And then goes back to the model about here. I realized that the hard skill and the soft skill are the things that most of the companies are able to empower us. But the mindset and how we actually interacting with the world with our value, those things are the most difficult part. And these two things are the most important thing also as when we kind of try to teach our team. So most of the time when I kind of sit down and talking to my team in different countries and different contexts, what I would care is not only about whether you're able to use Excel or whether you have like a really strong communication skill, but mostly I would kind of sit down to understand like what would be like, how are they actually reacting to challenges? How are they actually reacting to like difficulties? How they actually go through the process with different kind of mindset? Would they kind of like pull back when they kind of meeting challenges? Or like would they kind of like keep continue like to seek more for like the solutions? The most like common questions I asked most of the candidates when I was in Uber was like, if you're able to sign up 100 riders, which is good, but are you able to sell 1 million riders in 1 month? If yes, like how are you able to do things like in a different way? To some of like the candidate, they always like step back because they thought it's like crazy. Like you kind of making things like difficult for me to answer the question. But to me, it's not about like the answer of the question. It's about like whether you are kind of brave enough to accept like the challenges, or how you actually like making crazy or like out of box like ideas. So this is something that I care a lot, like when it comes to like the mindset and value. Next slide, please. Next, please. So it comes to my Alibaba way. As I kind of mentioned, I spent like 4 years in Uber, and Uber became like a place that I feel like super comfortable because I know how the business is actually running there. I'm really used to the culture. And then I got an opportunity from Alibaba. So to most of people, like we probably only know about that Alibaba was one of the biggest e-commerce platform, but Alibaba is actually covering the most part of like the life in most of the Chinese way. So Alibaba actually have different parts, starting from like the cloud. So it kind of building the technology foundation for the whole company. So and finance is a financial part. So Alibaba also have like logistics, e-commerce, food delivery, review, the online travel agencies, retail, shopping mall, entertainment. So basically covering everything about like our life. So I was like really glad that I got a chance to work into the Alibaba.com, which was like the first business unit that Alibaba established and started. So like the biggest challenge for this BU was this was like a 20 years old business. And then for the past 20 years old, the business model hasn't changed that much. So it's kind of a yellow page that connecting like those suppliers and also like those people who really want to buy the product from China. So this was like the business, like simple business. And then my role when I joined Alibaba was trying to build like a global team, which we were able to expand to the global suppliers. So we were trying to sell the product to like the global suppliers to ask them to post their product online, and then try to connect them with those like global buyers from China, as well as like other global countries. And then like something that we were trying to like test out, because like throughout the yellow page model, what the supplier they were paying is only the subscription fee. And then we were trying to like convert the model from a subscription model to a commission model. By doing that, we need to like better manage our traffic online, as well as like we start thinking about like if we should do like the logistic and also financial product for this global business. So this is my Alibaba way. But the thing that I really want to share here is not how I was like working in Alibaba. It's also like when I was working for like a Chinese company, which is like trying to do like globalization, I realized that Alibaba has like a really similar way of like how they actually see in talents. I mean, like for Alibaba, what they like talent was about like if they were like mission or vision driven. So Ali cares a lot about like mission. They cares a lot about value. So they care more value over like competency of like the talent. So this is like something that Alibaba care a lot. And also like they care if the person is able to manage like a team. But when we're kind of talking about management, we're talking about like how we're able to manage a team in a structured way. But Alibaba also care about if like these manager, they're kind of like a people manager, which means that you're not only a manager, but also a leader, but also like a coach to the team. So like the people management part is something that Alibaba they care a lot. Last but not least, Alibaba is like moving from like a Chinese company to like a global company. And then that's why they kind of like hire more and more global talents over the overseas. And then that's why they kind of care about like globalization. It's not about if you can speak English or not. It's about like how you actually see the business between China and global. And if you're able to bridge the gap between the China business and the global business. So this is something that I realized that whether in Uber or like Alibaba, in most of like the fast growing technology companies, they're actually like really the same. That they how they actually like seeing like talents, and then like how they actually like valuing like talents. Next slide, please. But I mean, like after 1 year spending my time in Alibaba, I went into like a struggling moment again, if I should create Alibaba, because like Alibaba was like a really good giant company. They have like a really good like footprint in different kind of business. The platform itself was like huge, but the thing to me is like throughout my whole Alibaba journey, I realized that I really want to build something that I can like create it like direct like impact. And then that's why I kind of asking myself like these 3 questions again. Every time when I got like struggle, I ask myself the questions. And then I realized that, okay, maybe Alibaba is not like the right place for me. And then that's why I move on to my next startup journey. Next slide, please. And then when I kind of sit down to review my whole past experience from Uber to Alibaba to the current job, I was kind of like try to build a model to try to understand like how myself is kind of like changing. I mean, like those like 3 questions I keep asking myself, those kind of North Stars that kind of giving me like the directions. But those North Star wasn't able to give me is like the path to reaching the direction. And then like one day when I was like reading an article from Wang Xin, who is like a CEO of Meituan, which is like the biggest food delivery platform in China. And he kind of shared this like Dunning-Kruger effect model. So I was like really excited seeing this model and trying to put my experience on it. So it kind of shows me about like the path about my growth. So when I was like working for Uber and Uber Eats, the whole growth trajectory was like really fast to me. And then I kind of built a lot of confidence because like we are achieving like the result, and the result is kind of like multiple results like every day. So I kind of building like the confidence to myself. And then I thought myself like back then was like doing really good. And then like this is something that like for young talents, like we kind of be ending like a lot. It's like we kind of seeing the confidence level as the competency level. And then I wasn't like really strong in most of the competencies when I kind of joined Alibaba, and I realized that. And then I went into like a really struggle moment of my life. And then it went to like the valley of like despair. This is something that like kind of sit down again and try to figure out. And then I changed my job to like a new job. And it goes to like the slow of like enlightenment. So this is kind of like the things that are kind of helping me when I kind of try to achieve the angle of the North Star. This is kind of the path. So it helps me to like reflect myself, how to build my path to my angle. Next slide, please. But I mean, like, even though I'm kind of like moving up to the end of the competence guru and going back up to the high of like the confidence. And then I realized the road is actually not as like smooth and then like easy as I thought. So it kind of going like back and forth, up and down. And then like they kind of like all the challenges, even though like in my current job. And then that's why it goes back to the 3 questions I keep asking myself. It's actually like I kind of asked these like 3 questions like recently, because I was like thinking about like if I should move to like another business unit in the company, or like kind of like to move to another challenge to my career. So it kind of goes to the next slide here. not showing up. But it goes to like the last slide. It's called Shoshin. So this like pronounced as like choosing in Chinese, and Chu means like beginner stage. Xin means hard, and some people they actually like interpret that as like the intention or like the mission. So I mean, like this is something that I actually learned from Alibaba as well, because like they keep asking me. My manager always asks me like, what exactly is like your Shoshin? And then this is like the question I ask myself the most. And then I feel like that whenever I got asked about like these three questions, these like three questions came to my mind again. And then my experience when I was like in AIESEC, when I was like sitting on the beach, when I was kind of reflecting about my leadership, reflecting my whole career, these questions are the questions that I ask myself like a lot. And then I would just like leave these three questions as the end of my sharing today. And then I hope that these three questions would like be helpful whenever you kind of like starting to start your career or like change your career, or you kind of be in struggle in your lifetime. That's like my sharing. Thank you.
Awesome. Claps or snaps for you, the AIESEC way. Thank you so much, Jaycee. This was really, really very, very insightful all the way, you know, from your career, starting your e-commerce platform, moving on to Uber Eats, and Alibaba, and now the company that you're working at. I think this slide is very, very important. And like when I saw it the first time, it really hit home with me as well personally. So it's very insightful, makes you think a lot, and it really tries to, in a way, help you answer questions and move your life in a direction that would make you fulfilled, not just, you know, external life fulfillment. So thank you for that. It was a great presentation. I will open up the floor for questions if anyone has any. We still have some time. So yeah, so anyone who wants to ask questions, please unmute yourselves and go for it.
Hi, Jaycee.
Hey, Freddie.
Hey. I was wondering, do you have to remember when you went to leadership in Indonesia, right? Remember when we met in Bandung back in 2009? So
yeah, in the small office, right? Lifelong connection, man.
Yeah, nice to meet you again. So I was like wondering, like, since you said leadership had a big impact on your life, what cultural values did you learn from the Indonesian people? Because you've been to different cities, right? You've been to like Padang, you've been to Bandung. So like, what cultural values did you learn that you wouldn't get elsewhere?
You mean the leadership itself, or like after the leadership when I was like in my career?
No, I mean, what did you learn from the Indonesian people?
Right. Yeah, I was like pretty shocked for my first job when I was renting on the leadership, because I got like an appointment around 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and then apparently like the stakeholder didn't show until like around like 2 p.m. And then that was something that I feel like really shocked about, like how we actually like seeing times in a different way. I was like a really like principal, and then I was like kind of like really seeing time as like a really strict like principal, right? And then like the first day I was like asking like the people around me is like, okay, like should we like try to inform the stakeholder to come like on time like tomorrow, or should we just like accept it? And then like the thing that I actually learned here is just try to accept the differences. So this is something that I really learned like, from the leadership. That's like my first lesson. It's like just to accept and understand the difference, and try to understand the cultural difference over there. The second thing that I really learned from like the leadership when I kind of go into different places is try to learn about like the different like the business model, and then try to appreciate different business model. I remember one of like, the experience was went to a village, and then I back to the village, they actually using like the local kind of like the local plant to build like a product, and then they actually try to sell the product online. So this is something that like really new to me. And then for like the local plant itself, I didn't know what exactly it said, but like for the product itself, I was like trying to help them to do like the online e-commerce part to try to sell the product. So this is something that like something new to me. And then I was like trying to learn from that as well. And also helped me a lot about like my e-commerce like experience, like how to run the e-commerce platform by understanding like the product when I went to like the village. So it also helped me a lot as well. So I mean, these two are kind of the most like, I would say like inspiring moment for myself. One is like try to interact with the people, two is interact with like the business, but both of the experience taught me to like become like open-minded to differences. So that's really important to me.
Cool, thanks.
If anyone else has any questions, also if you guys want me to go back to any slide, more than happy to do that too.
Hi, Jaycee. I have a question. Really enjoy the sharing. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. I was wondering, like, looking back into your experience, what kind of things in the organization that help you to create this impact? What kind of elements in the organization that help you to create this impact in your life? And what are things that we should, how can we replicate the same thing for the current membership or the current people that are joining in the organization so that they will have similar kind of impact in their life as well?
Organization refers to AIESEC.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like something I learned from AIESEC as well as my career experience. I feel like a few things. Like one is people caring. So this is like really, really important to me. Even like in my current job, like people is always put before like business, because I know that once we build like a strong team and then like the people that have the motivation and they find out the purpose of why they're in the company or in the organization, that helps them and also help the organization to just like keep moving forward. So like as a manager, like you don't have to like micromanage about every step of the business, because you know that you can rely on the team. So this is like the first thing that I think a lot is like the people management. But when it comes to people management, the first question we have to do as like a leader is to help those people to answer the question about the purpose. It's like, why are you here in AIESEC? Why do you join this company? Why do you do, I don't know if that is the correct like terms right now, but why do you do ICS or like do OGX? Like back then it's that kind of business. Why do you do that exchange? Once you help them to figure out the why, the rest of like the challenge or like the problem will be like resolved. So I think that this is the first one that I will answer the question. And then the second thing for me is to build a culture and like a system to maintain or sustain the whole organization. So this is like really important. And then I feel like building like step or building SOPs, building like playbook, these are the terms that we use a lot in the business world. But I mean like building a culture, this is something that like we don't usually get in touch with, because like for most of the company, this is like the higher level leadership would do. But I mean, like in organization, you guys are the higher leaders of the organization. The culture that you build would last longer than the system that you build. And then like by building the culture is pretty important as a leader, how you actually demonstrate, and then like how you actually hiring the right people or like elect the right people for the management. So I feel like this is like the second suggestion to you is like building the right culture, demonstrate the culture as like a leader. And then I feel like last but not least is like building like the SOP system playbook. I think these are also like important, but I wouldn't put these like over people and over culture.
Hi, Jaycee. This is Saurav. I have a quick question for you. First of all, thank you for taking us through this wonderful experience journey that you have had post AIESEC experience. So I just had this one question for you that if you had to give one advice to your younger self back in AIESEC days from now, what would that be?
You mean advice? It's a good question. I think I should probably spend more time for exchange, or probably like I would go back to that, like because like throughout my whole AIESEC experience, something that I really miss is exchange experience. I done leadership, I done MC globally, but I never took any exchange. And then actually back then, like the best place I really want to go is actually India. And I actually didn't have like a chance to visit India like till now. So if I would give myself advice, is like to take the 2-3 exchanges like throughout my whole AIESEC experience and go to India. If I really have to answer that. Yeah.
Thank you for answering.
So you're always welcome to India, Jaycee. Sorry, there's one question. Yeah, there's a question in the chat. It's from Eric. Eric's from Malaysia. Eric asks, how often do you ask yourself the 3 questions? And do you do this regularly?
Yeah. I kind of ask these three questions mostly when I kind of making life-changing decisions. Most of the decisions kind of like starting from like job to job. So for example, if I should start my startup, I ask myself these questions, and I try to apply the answer of these three questions to how I should build in the startup model. And then when I kind of switching my job from Uber to Uber Eats, and that's like the moment I ask myself a lot about these three questions. The second scenario, then when I ask myself these three questions is when I kind of meeting the challenges that I actually cannot find out a really logical way and framework to resolve the challenges. So those like challenges is not like how many cars that you need in the city, because those are kind of consulting like questions that you can easily try to figure out like the framework. But the question is like, what would be like the strategy that I really want to build for my team? And then if the strategy itself is kind of conflicting with the value that I kind of truly believe in, and then I will ask myself these three questions. Because to me, like the value itself and the business itself, they're kind of like somehow a little bit conflict to each other. And then I should like sit down to see like if I really want to change how I actually believe in to what the business needs me to become. So this is like the second scenario that I really ask like myself these like three questions. So it's like the changes in my life, and also like when my value got challenges, and then I will ask myself like these three questions. But I mean, like if you kind of start kind of practicing these three questions, you can actually try to do that in a regular base. I used to try to ask myself like in a monthly base, like when I kind of started kind of like doing reflection. So like for the first few months, actually I see myself like change, and actually like the answer change as well, like for these three questions. So you can actually like starting from like on like some monthly or kind of like quarterly basis when you kind of starting this practice.
Right, awesome. Thank you, Eric, for that question. If anyone else has any.
I have one question. First of all, hello, Jaycee. This is Angad from India. Actually, I wanted to ask about, like, as you go higher in your leadership ladder, the culture part of it plays a huge important role in the whole AIESEC journey or outside or whatever. So if I want to ask you that as we go higher in your leadership ladder, there are touch points which decreases with the front end of the people, like who are working in the front, like directly in terms of sales, marketing, or whatever. So how do you contribute whenever you go in the higher level of leadership? Because whatever you are implementing, only 50% of it maximum gets implemented at the ground level or something like this. So you have also taken in charge in the Asia part of it for Uber Eats. How did you manage that in your entire journey?
Mm-hmm. I mean, first of all, I'm kind of like a person that gets my hands dirty. I mean, even right now, I still like go to the front line to sit down with people, to visit in like different like cities, which I understand like the business. And then I try to like talk to like our consumer as well. Sometimes I went to like our call center to sit down there to pick up calls. No one knows I was like a manager. They only knows me as like a consumer service member. So I mean, I keep doing that, like to try to actually understand like what the market really needs about. And then once the business is actually getting like bigger, like what we have to do is build like a really good feedback system. I mean, like for consumer, they have like the access to like send their feedback to our company, right? They don't need to like go through the sales to give me that feedback. They can just like feedback on their on their phone and in the app. So this is something that I kind of try to collect like the feedback as well from like a more systematic way to try to understand like the voice in the front line. And I feel like last but not least, in most of the company, they have like a system about like people reviewing, right? So I mean, like for each quarter, we will review like our employees, and then it's like a process. And for the whole reviewing process, what we have to do is ask the employees to share their T3s and B3s. So T3 is like the top 3 things that you think that you're doing good, the bottom 3 things that you're feeling that you need to improve, and also like the G3s is like the 3 goals that you want to achieve in the next quarter, and also like the biggest challenge that stop you from like achieving that. So by doing this kind of systematic like employee kind of like reviewing cycle, we are able to collect like the problems and also like the questions like from the front line. And most of the time, I would just like sit down to some of like the frontline employees like review cycle, and then to hear their presentation and then hear their real voice about how they're actually thinking about like the business. So this is something that I've been like doing to try to understand about market. As like a personal way, I love go to the front line. I actually like did a lot of like front line work even right now. And also like from a systematic way is to try to build a system from like the employee perspective and also the consumer perspective to continually sustainably collecting all the feedback.
All right. Thank you so much, Jaycee. Means a lot. Thank you for the presentation also.
No problem.
Awesome. If it's okay, before we move on to like more questions, I'd love for everyone if we could, take a photo with everyone. We have a couple of announcements to make just before we come back to it. Is that okay, Jaycee?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, awesome. So if everyone could switch on the cameras, give their best pose or whatever, it'd be nice just to take a photo, and then we have some couple of questions for us. Oh, let me actually, Stefan, before you go to the photo, let me go back to the intro slide. So we have, awesome. All right, Stefan, give us.
So I'll be taking the photo for everyone. So there's a few pages, so please be patient with me. There's 2 pages. The first one in 3, 2, 1. Cool. And then we have one more in 3, 2, 1. All right, amazing. So back to you, Jaycee and Gaurav.
Awesome,
thank you so much. A group photo.
All right, thank you so much for that, everyone. Just to let everyone know, our next regional A talk is on how to build resilience, and it's by Ustuti, who's from the Philippines but is currently in Switzerland. She was way up the corporate ladder in the HR department in banking at UBS in Switzerland. Before she quit her career and is now the founder of Uplift My Life Today. And essentially what she does is she's a subconscious mind reprogrammer, which is really cool. And she's also a life coach. So that is next month, December 13th. Would really, really love to see everyone over there if you can come again. And for a couple of announcements, I'll hand it over to you, David, if that's okay, before we move back to Jaycee.
Sure. Look, I'll only take a couple of moments. Thank you so much, Jaycee. Jaycee's own journey is unique. And yes, I'm sure there are lots of folk in this room, including myself, who recognize so many of those connections between our AIESEC background and our desire to find our North Star. I found it incredibly not only insightful, but I certainly connected with a lot of it. And I'm hoping that some of the members of the team, for example, that we've been putting in place through the region, whether it's the actual management team or the national leaders, this issue of culture is incredibly important, as you said. And I'm hoping that they can recognize the culture that we're actually trying to build within these teams at the moment. So I think that was just wonderful. Just very quickly, for everyone who's in this call or watching this live, please understand at the moment that on a regional basis, we are now developing programs and the materials to help us both model those programs and help train national leaders to copy and implement according to a template. So for example, we've already had regional presentations being provided by April, who's in this room, on A groups. And as a consequence, there's now many more A groups being created through the region. As far as the regional A talks, the team have been developing this for every event, and it's been improving every time, so that the very first presentation that will be done through the region will be by Gaurav, and it'll be on the 19th of December. You can pencil it into your agendas. It'll be, we schedule it at the moment for about 6:30 p.m. on the Saturday the 19th, 6:30 p.m. Melbourne time. And that's where Gaurav will present for the first time a how-to session on organizing A talks. And I'm really looking forward to that. And again, Gaurav will then do that on a regular basis so that we increase our impact in these sorts of things. And we are currently developing the same sort of approach for the other programs that have now been designed, whether it's SpeedNet, ARITS, mentoring, and whether you recognize those names or not, please understand we will be now rolling these out on a very regular basis. Just in conclusion, the one other thing that I wanted to mention in terms of a schedule is that we will have an end of year celebration through the region and for any others who wish to join us. And we're going to do this on Saturday, the 21st of November. We'll start at around 9 p.m. Melbourne time, so it'll be through the day for most people on that Saturday. And it's just going to be a celebration of the direction that we've now found for the organization. We'll have a lot of fun. There are going to be some surprises. Some members of the team are going to be surprising you with a few things, but I'm really looking forward to that. So please pencil those times in. That's really all I have to say at the moment. I'm just delighted. You know, just as an aside, we have deliberately tried to increase the quality and the standard of these events on a regional basis. We really are trying to get them to as high a level as we can. And on that basis, I am, again, just thrilled that this has been such an insightful, engaging, and relevant session. So once again, thank you, Jaycee. Thank you to the team for organizing this. Back to you, Gaurav.
Awesome. Thank you again, everyone. I do have, Jaycee, if that's okay, I do have one more question in the chat from Baifern. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Baifern from Thailand says, he'd like to know the tips for starting your own business and what kind of skills one should learn to survive in this fast-moving world.
Yeah, something that I hear a lot from most of the staff is to embrace the changes. So this is like the thing that I heard a lot, because like in the real world, the business and the environment has been changing really, really fast. So what you have to do is to learn to stay with like the changes. And then the other thing that I heard from like the staff is try to stay with the chaotic situation all the time. Because like when we kind of trying to build something, we will have like a really nice plan from like 0 to 1 or like 0 to 10. And then we expect it to become like a linear relationship, like how we kind of put in efforts and how the business would just like grow. But the reality is no. So regardless of how much effort you probably need to put inside the business or even like the staff, you realize the staff would not just go to like the direction as you kind of like planned. So, and that's why like try to stay with like the chaotic like situation is like really important. So this is kind of like the mindset part I would like to share like as like the start here is like to embrace the changes and also to embrace the chaotic situation. And then you have to live with these two things if you really want to like do a startup. So this is suggestion and tips number 1. And number 2 is when it comes like a business, it's really important to find out the business and to find out that what problem the business is actually solving to the society and then to the consumers. This is always like the first question that you have to ask, like, are we actually like solving the problem in a scalable and then in a kind of like meaningful and in a valuable way? So this is very important. If we only are solving like a really simple problem, is just like connecting two people, and then this is not like a business, right? And this is more like how you actually solving like a problem. And when it comes to the business problem, it has to be like a problem that most people they're actually like struggling with, and then they are kind of like willing to pay money for like the problem. And then the problem itself, like the solution to the problem itself has to be like scalable. And then that's how you actually build in like a business, right? It's like not like building like a kind of like small company. So it has to be like a scalable like problem that you're solving. For example, like ride sharing is like solving the problem how people cannot get a taxi. And then a delivery problem is like solving like a problem how people want to sit at home and they want to eat the food like from restaurant. And then like it's just like helping the lazy people. And then actually like for the new generation, it's getting lazier and lazier and smarter. So you have to like better focus on solving the problem about the new generation. So this is my second tips here is like a solving a problem. And the last thing here is you probably need to ask yourself whether you want to build a business or you want to build a company. Like the difference here to me is like a business is something like long-term. Business is something that we have to build a vision, mission, and also like the value for like the company. And then like building like a company is just like building something that you want to make profit. So it doesn't matter if you want to build a business or like a company, it's totally fine. But I mean like making sure that you actually like have the right purpose or like the why expectation about building some stuff is like really important. Because when you kind of trying to build like a business, you have to endure all the challenges in the short term because you see the long-term value of doing this business. And if you just want to build a company, the most important thing for you is like the profitability, is like making profit in the short term and to keep the business running sustainably. So you have to make sure that you have like the right expectation when you kind of doing like a stuff here. And last tips here is back to like how I actually value a lot about talent is to hire the right people. So I mean, like for Uber, what Travis taught me, the CEO Travis taught me is like to hire the first 100 people right. And then when we talk about right people, it's not just about their skill set, but also about their value and also about how if they have like the entrepreneur mindset to start the business with you. If you hire like the first like 100 people right, or if you hire the first kind of like the EB team or like the most core membership team right, like the business would just like sustain like easier. And then this is kind of my 4 tips here.
Anyone else with some other questions? Leave the floor open for like a minute or so.
Hey, Jaycee, this is Martian from mainland China, and thanks for your sharing. I happened to attend the 15-year anniversary, and you were presenting your Uber experience. That was very nice, and happy to know what happened afterwards. And I'm very curious, like where you see yourself in 5 years, and how that will be relevant to your life mission.
Sorry, I missed the last question. Can you repeat again?
Oh, okay. So where you see yourself in 5 years, and how, okay, the next 5 years, whatever you are doing 5 years will be relevant to your life mission.
Got it. I mean, like, I was always thinking about like taking a gap year, actually, because I actually didn't have like too much rest between job to job, and then I didn't have like too much time to reflect myself between job to job. So this is something that I'm actually thinking about. And then also thinking about like taking like an MBA school. Even most of like the people, they told me not to, because they thought that I already like learned most of the things from my staff experience and Uber experience. But I still like feel like that from like the learning perspective, there are like a lot of things I still like unknown. It goes back to like the model I share by the end. It's actually like going into like a stage that I feel like that I need to improve my competency about knowing more about the world. And then what I know before is only about how to do execution, doing my job right. What I don't know about myself is like, what is like the next step for myself, and what would be like the lifelong kind of like end goal for my life. Because I kind of like doing the reflection again recently, and I asked myself like 3 questions. And then like the first question, it becoming like blurry to me, because throughout my whole past like few years of working experience, I actually learn a lot about like business. And then I feel like that myself, I kind of getting further and further from what I really want to do in my long-term perspective, like building a sustainable social enterprise, things like that. So this is something that I kind of asking myself. And then that's why I feel like that I should probably need to pause if I kind of like finish my current job, and then I need to sit down, reflect myself, and try to learn something in a more structured and concrete way from school. And this is how I see myself in the incoming probably like 3 years. And I feel like 5 years something that like really difficult to me, because I actually don't see that long right now. And then that's why I need to like probably like need to ask myself like these 3 questions again. Yeah, to be honest, I don't have the answer for 5 years. I only have like 3 years.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. I think we have one last question in the chat, if that's okay. This is from Ser Liang from Malaysia. She says that it seems like you have extensive knowledge in a lot of working frameworks, models, and whatnot. How did you accumulate your knowledge? And are there any like books or websites or like subscriptions that you visit frequently and you would like to recommend to everyone?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, like I have like a theory about how people learning stuff. It probably not apply to anyone, but this is something that I kind of like following like strictly. To me, I think like 10% of our knowledge is coming from books, website, those like things that you can actually read. And then like 70% of the knowledge actually coming from kind of like practicing. So it actually coming from like what you kind of doing like from day to day, like from your job, from the things that you're actually doing right now, regardless if it's like a job or like a student organization. So it's like kind of like my understanding about like how can learning 70%. And the rest of like 20% is coming from reflection and talking to your coach. So your coach, the main responsibility is try to help you to reflect as well, to try to review what exactly is like the problem in the past experience. And then I try to figure out what the things that you can improve. And then what are the gaps between like what you really want to become and then who you really are right now. So this is how I kind of like try to understand the knowledge itself. But I mean, like for the 10% about how I kind of learning about like these like models. I mean, I kind of like read a lot of like consultant books before, because I almost like trying to apply for a consulting company as most of the new AIESEC graduates. I was trying to do that, and that's why I read a lot of consultant book, and that's why in my mind there's like a lot of different like models over there, like the 3Cs model, 4Ps model, etc., etc. So those are things that's helping me like to structure most of the questions. But I mean, I also read a lot of like biography as well, because I really want to learn how people are actually thinking, and then how they're actually like making different like changes, like steps, how they're actually making the decision when they kind of like come into different like changes. So I read a lot of biographies. And also I'm trying to read a lot of like books for those books that actually telling me about like the structures. I mean, like there are a lot of books I kind of like when I was in AIESEC that people recommend to me. Those are help me to build my framework. But again, like to me, what I truly believe in learning is learning from putting things into practice. And also like whenever you kind of have time, try to sit down and try to reflect and review the things that you have done and try to learn from like the success and also the failures from the practice.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that was amazing. Was one thing I noticed, like something just like you said about, when you were learning a lot about consulting books as well. Whenever you answered like every question that was asked to you, you kind of followed like, like a process or like the model to answer those questions. Everything was like, in like a 3-part system or a 4-part system as well. So, that just gives us, I guess, a little insight into like your way of thinking too. But I guess that's about it from the question side. Thank you so much again, Jaycee. We really, really appreciate you. We really, really appreciate your time. Thank you, David and Stefan, for supporting, and Annalise as well, for supporting throughout the event, before, during, and I'm sure you guys are going to be supporting after as well. But yeah, that's it from me. And thank you to everyone again who came and participated. Do remember we have our next one coming up next month, so we'll hope to see everyone over there.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.